I think there may be, oh, there it is. Cool.
And we are live. So, welcome to the call, everyone. We have relatively few people here. Maybe from our team on vacation, I think. So, we'll do the usual around the table where we report progress and then do the questions and answer session. I'll start myself. I don't have much to say. I wanted to prepare a presentation as I promised for the bridge to bridge stuff, but we decided to postpone this until we have a working system that we can actually talk about, because right now it's just a prototype. So expect this in the coming weeks, but if anyone has any questions about this, feel free to shoot me an email and I'll try to answer. Let's see, I know that there was a bug in Jitsi that we saw previously in custom comments where joining the room would wait for a reply from the XMPP server while holding a lock for up to 15 seconds. And this has been now fixed. Pavel had a PR last week in Northgate. And I think that's all that I have. Brian, do you want to go next?
Sure. So I've been doing a bunch of work on refactoring and just kind of tweaking the simulcast logic in the bridge, and just some reorganization of the logic. And I have a PR up now from Friday that fixes a bug with downscaling incorrectly or a little slower than expected, and hopefully this PR should fix that. And I have some other PRs, once that's in, that add just a few kind of basic unit tests and some unit test framework for that simulcast stuff, because George and I had talked about the fact that it would be nice to have at least the ability in the future to easily write some unit tests for that logic, because there's a lot of subtle code there, and it'll be a little helpful for reprogramming if we run into any issues. So I'm going to be hopefully getting that PR in, and then getting these other unit test ones in today. Are we picking next? Lenny, have you gone?
No, are we going over what we've done?
Yeah, anything that's relevant to the community call. So anything that's sort of relevant to the open source project, which is probably most of what you do.
Oh, right. So last couple of weeks, I've mainly been working on incorporating more of Atlas Kit into the UI. I think also the call quality selector slider has been merged in to master. And otherwise, I'm just going to continue working on using more of Atlas Kit's components. I don't know who's gone already, so someone please pick for me.
I'll go. Oh, go ahead, Yana.
I'll go after Lenny because I worked mostly on reviewing his PRs. So I'm concentrating. He's very effective in moving to Atlas Kit, so I'm concentrating on reviewing his PRs and merging to master. Other than that, I've worked also the previous weeks on the rearranging the invite links in the invite user experience and UI, and this will probably land in master in the following 2 weeks. That's for me. Aaron, you wanted to go next?
Yeah, I'm happy to go next. So mostly I've been working on stuff outside of the open source project, but I did commit just last week, and I think just got merged today, the Swagger for the API calls used to do the conference mapper and the phone number list. So it's not the complete API for the invitations like Yana was talking about, but at the very least, the basic conference mapping API and the phone number list API that Jitsi Meet can consume in order to allow for dial-in functionality. All of that has been now documented into Jitsi Meet. So everybody with any questions about it, feel free to email me. But that's at least now out there in the docs section of Jitsi Meet. So feel free to ask questions on the list or directly to us. And I think that's it for me. Why don't we go with Lubo next?
Well, that means the mobile efforts here. So I was on vacation last week, and I didn't work on Jitsi mobile related issues. I know that the week before, so Pawan and I worked on bug fixes and stability and performance improvements. Many of those for the mobile app. We haven't released those things. Notable is Soul's efforts on improving the thumbnails on the iOS and Android. They should be better now, but no one can see them unless they run from source code. We expect at the end of this week to be able to release those to the public. And this week we're going to continue with more of those bug fixes. Hopefully, Pavel will have time to work on support for authentication, deployments with XMPP authentication, because this has been a deal breaker for a lot of people who have their own deployments, like inside companies. So there are going to be news around those relatively soon. So do you want to add something, Pavel?
I don't have anything interesting to add. I worked mostly on fixing different issues here and there. Some of them in Gcofo, on our torture tests, which were failing randomly, and now I'm fixing problem on web around audio only mode. And yeah, that's it from me.
I will add just one thing though. Other than what Leo said, I spent last week with Emil at ClueCon, where we presented, Jitsi Meet and whatnot, including the SDK. And in preparation for that talk, I built an application, an iOS application from scratch, and integrated the SDK into it, and recorded that process in the video. So hopefully we tidy up that a little bit and publish both video and the source code for the sample application. It took a grand total of 12 minutes from creating the Xcode project until you could make the first call. So that was pretty cool to see.
Nice.
And that's all.
I think the last team member is George, who has not yet gone.
Yeah, I would like to complete Brian's description. We fixed an issue in the bridge where Rembis leak in the audio channel enriched Chrome, which makes Chrome adapt to the worst receiver. So we are now, Brian's fix now terminates those. With Brian's fix, we now terminate those. The fix is not released, but it should greatly improve the call quality. We have tested it on beta, and it seems that it has that effect. So other than that, we have been thinking about what kind of data to gather and formulate and work on congestion control with some neural nets. This is an ongoing effort. I don't have a lot of progress there, but that's what I've been mostly working on in the past couple of weeks. And that's it from me.
Well, cool. Anybody else on the team have anything else to add? Other than the ceiling.
I did speak.
Yeah, you did great. Okay, then I guess we're gonna go to open mic. Anybody have any questions for us?
Well, I would have not much of a question, but a request. Some of you might have noticed that I'm working on migrating some projects to SMAC 4, and that involves quite a lot of work. Yesterday, I was merging the latest master branches into my fork or into the SMAC 4 branches, and in there, I'd ask you, please don't do any code reformats. Don't add braces where they should be or any other stuff, because it makes merging extremely difficult. So until these SMAC 4 branches are merged back into master, please don't do any reformattings.
All right. One more thing that I wanted to note. We wrote a paper, it was last year, I think, about simulcast, which did an evaluation of the way that it works in WebRTC with VP8. And it was just published a few weeks ago. I'd have to see if we can just publish the PDF on our website. But if anyone is interested, just shoot us an email and we can share it there.
Because
Well, Gus, can you start again? All your audio just chopped up.
oh, sorry. Let me try that again. Is this better?
Yep.
Yeah, cool. So last time I spoke about trying to find a way to replace the focus user with the component. I'm still a bit in holiday mode, so I didn't spend too much time on it. But the time that I spent, I was running into basically issues with trying to set up a proper development environment and browse through the code. I've commented on that on the list, and some of you provided valuable feedback. So that's still a work in progress. I don't have anything to add on that. I do have a completely different question though. With the existing Meet application, is it feasible to add with custom code a button, one of the buttons that we see on top or on the left-hand side without breaking backwards compatibility? Is there some sort of plugin API or an easy way where I can add functionality behind the button without having to fork the code, basically?
From the silence, it's sounding like a no.
Yeah, I'll take that.
You mean a button to like the toolbar to do something?
Yeah, exactly. There's people that want to create a screenshot, for instance.
So my suggestion for that is honestly, yeah, there's no API for it at the moment, but what you could do is we have a plugin.head.html file that gets included on every index.html via SSI. So basically, you could put all your custom code in there, including a bunch of JavaScript and a bunch of CSS to insert a button into the list to bind that button to some functions, all that stuff. And then we don't replace the plugin HTML file. It's a blank file that we never really edit. And so when you do upgrades, it should be that we don't replace it or change it. But it's not the same thing exactly as what you're asking for, but.
So that's going to be painful because right now those buttons are generated with React.
True. So it'd be a lot harder to discover
it. Copy part of the DOM and know that it's going to stay that way.
Oh, true. Okay, then
rely on all that stuff.
Never mind.
We don't, guys, we don't have sort of that thing because, and I feel your pain because I've heard these requests for other stuff from other people. I'm not sure if there is a plan to add this sort of longer term. But I don't see how it could be achieved in a generic way, since, for example, there was this use case for, I don't know, integrating with draw.io or something, for doing some diagrams in a co-browsing like thing or something along those lines. But the thing is, it's not only the button. If it's a button to do an action that has no UI, then well, maybe. But if it's something you need to overlay something or do something, it ends up being somewhat integrated into the whole mess. So, yeah, I'm afraid I have no good answer, and the reasons being those.
Yeah, I was a bit afraid of that. It's not completely unexpected that this isn't possible.
It's a great question, though. I would also like that. So I think it's worth at least having a discussion on our team about it. Even if it's like a roadmap item that doesn't get worked on for a while, at least we could consider it. So,
yeah, for me, it would prevent a fork from your code. And these guys did a fork of your code about a year and a half ago, and we basically had to redo the entire solution because no one paid attention how far the fork and the source separated. So I'd like to prevent that in the future.
We're not there with the toolbar, so there are multiple issues there. First, our source code is not prepared for a plugin architecture when you plug in a button. And when we say a button, it sounds very simple, but it's actually very complex, because on a button you have enable, disable, is some kind of style that if you hover over it, in like it's a very complex thing, and we're not ready for a plugin architecture. Then we're in the middle of a rewrite at the moment in React. So we're trying to merge, like that's a long-term goal, web and mobile as much as possible, even there in the toolbars, but they're currently very different. So even if we, like, I don't see us getting soon to a plugin architecture for the toolbars.
That's an excellent point, Lubo.
Yeah. Okay. Well, too bad. It doesn't hurt to ask, right? So I gave him my best shot. One different question. Would it be possible? I don't know. I'm not very familiar with the front-end code. I'm more of a Java guy myself, I'm afraid. But would it be possible to not have the webcam image stretch of the browser window, but just have its original resolution? Is that an easy fix somewhere, or is that something pretty complicated as well?
I think there's something with the zoom coefficient or something else in interface config. Let me check real quick. There are a couple of options that control something we do there. If we respect vertical or horizontal. Lenny, do you remember right off the bat? I think you worked on that.
No, I don't remember right off the bat, but yeah, there is something called a max zoom coefficient. It basically adds the blurring on the background to prevent this.
I see. Stretching. Sorry, this is something else. This is the video layout fit, Gus. Determines how the video would fit the screen. Both would fit the whole screen. Height would fit the original video height to the height of the screen. Width would fit the original video width. And then the background would be filled with what Lenny told you.
Okay, can I disable it completely? Because what you're telling me now is either stretch it both horizontally and vertically, or stretch it just one of the dimensions, but I want to have the original resolution, actually.
No, that's not possible. But by stretch, it means it will keep the aspect ratio. So even if you get VGA, it will like fit the space that you give it vertically. And then it will compensate the sides with some...
Yeah, stretch was the wrong word, but I don't want... well, my problem is that the original resolution is changed, and I want to prevent that. So the original resolution that comes from the webcam.
Yeah.
But again, it is simply as
But I'm not sure I follow. This would mean that, for example, if you only get thumbnail resolution because there's bad bandwidth, you would get like a very small square in the middle of the screen.
Yeah, that's exactly what I want.
Okay, so I'm afraid that's not a thing we do.
Okay, sure. Yeah. That's a valid answer. Thanks.
So Henry had a question about when stable releases are pushed out. Did that get answered or not? I guess not. So I think Damien would be the one to give a definite answer here. But the gist of it is there's no schedule. We update whenever we have features that we want or fixes that we want, and we feel that we have a stable version. I'm not aware of any goals there. It generally happens maybe once every 2, 3, 4 weeks on average.
Is there anything known when the next release is going to be? Soon or in a couple of weeks or?
I'm not aware of any plans. Anyone else?
I'm just asking because like 2 or 4 weeks ago, we said we're gonna upgrade to Java 8 once the next stable release is out. So I was wondering if that already happened and we could switch, or if we should wait a little more, because if I through with the SMAC 4 migration, those two would be a good fit together to merge SMAC 4 and do the Java 8 upgrade, because the Java 8 upgrade is likely to break things anyways, and so is the SMAC 4 stuff.
That's a good point. We did update Jitsi to Java 8 because we had a use case and we wanted to test it out, and it worked out very nicely. We didn't see any problems. Still, I think it makes sense to push another stable, quote-unquote, version and then do the update.
Okay. I'm not sure in what time frame I'm able to upgrade Jitsi to SMAC 4. What projects are actually currently used in the entire environment that needed to be upgraded? Does anybody know what's still depending on SMAC 3? So far, I've upgraded the Jitsi desktop client, the video bridge, Gcofo, and then there's Jitsi left, and what else?
I think the Hammer has it already uses SMAC 4 somehow.
Yeah, I updated the Hammer, but one awkward thing about the Hammer might be, Ingo, that I didn't know a lot of the extensions the SMAC 4 updated, so I actually had manually done a bunch of SMAC 4 updated for all of our extensions in the Hammer. So it'd be nice to get all those using the same one, but we might be able to get away with that being a next step rather than blocking your work on getting that done. I don't know.
Okay, so I've basically thrown that SMAC interop layer away that's been in the bridge. So I guess that was for the Hammer.
Yeah, I know the Hammer was using that.
Okay.
I don't know if anything else was.
Okay.
So
well,
I'm
yeah,
not aware of anything else either.
Okay, well, if anybody comes up with something, please write to the list or let me know in another way. And just as I'm seeing now, there seems to be an issue with the chat. I can't see the lowest messages entirely. Like Boris wrote something, but I can only see his name, but not what he wrote, actually.
I've seen that before, and it's often a style sheet thing. When I refresh, it's back again and it works. I don't know that that's a great solution, but there it is. What he said is that he agrees that you're doing great work, that there's an impressive list of SMAC projects you've upgraded, and that you're not getting enough recognition for the pain you're going through. So thank you very much.
Yeah.
This is awesome work.
Yep,
we do appreciate it. We're trying not to make it any harder for you.
Yeah.
It's a huge piece of work that we've been postponing for years, and it's great to see it finally.
Yeah, well, so hopefully we can keep up with what Florian's doing, because he's not making our life easier either. But yeah, hopefully we'll be able to keep up now.
I'll not comment on Florian's making your life easier or not bit. I do have a completely separate. I do know what a pain it is to upgrade one project, SMAC 3 to 4. So hearing the impressive list that you just mentioned fills me with awe. I've got a completely different question, a quick one. I mailed email about this, but since he's not here, I'm guessing he's on holiday. Is anyone of you familiar with the ATalk client?
I've complained that it's not open source.
Oh, yeah. So at least you know what it is.
I know it exists.
Right.
That's pretty much it.
I've got some questions, but not for the record. So I'll poke you guys offline. When is Emil back? Because I asked him the same question.
He should be back tomorrow.
Oh, okay. And then he'll probably see my email as well.
By Thursday. Okay. Yeah.
Well, he's basically violating the GPL. I've even found some code posted in the Ignite real-time forums where there's GPL code inside, and I just suspect that he doesn't use any version control system, so he's probably even unable to release it, even if he wanted to.
Ah. Okay, interesting.
And it's from probably from China, so I wouldn't install it.
Well, no, yeah, let's not try that. Okay, thanks. That's it for me.
Great. Anybody else have any questions, comments, concerns, suggestions, or really positive feedback?
I have something. This, and it actually kind of belongs here, I guess. This morning I was talking with a guy from Spain that was using Jitsi in some capacity, Jitsi Meet. And he told me about this project. In Spain, we have the three wise men bring you presents on the 6th of January. And don't laugh. And Santa Claus is just an afterthought there. And then they built a platform which was for a charity, but there was also a local government involved where children could video call with the three wise men to, tell them what they really wanted and this and that. So I was watching the video, and I think it was a pretty cool use case. And apparently there seems to be some people that are not so comfortable with English. And he started a Google group for Jitsi in Spanish. So like an unofficial sort of self-conversation support group, which I think is pretty cool. And that's all.
Yeah, that is cool.
Yeah, it's very cool.
That also served as a fun fact of the day.
Nice.
There you go.
Okay, so going once, going twice. Anyone want to say anything more?
Who would I need to ask for resources from Atlassian or virtual machine resources?
What do you have in mind?
Setting up a proper Nexus server instead of using GitHub as a Maven repository.
I see. Probably we'd have to discuss it with the team to see if it's a resource we want to run ourselves. That's something I'd have to talk to with Emil, but then you'd probably talk to me.
Okay. If you see him, can you maybe bring that up internally? Because I know that Atlassian, for example, runs its own Nexus server as well. So maybe you could use that instead.
Take advantage of theirs. But I think, Lubo, did you publish stuff to their Maven repository? Am I misremembering that?
Sorry, what was it?
Well, I published in the private Maven repository.
Oh, okay.
I know they have public repositories as well, but probably we can publish there. We just have to carefully read through the documentation, because I think if something's available elsewhere, Atlassian proxies it. But in our case, with the GitHub Maven repo, we're not like a super real Maven repo. So I think the case can be made for deploying directly in public Atlassian.
Okay. So why don't we take it offline? We'll have a discussion with the team, and then we can decide where we go from there.
Sure. In any case, if the Atlassian repo isn't appropriate, then I've set it up for the company where I work for. It's pretty easy if there is a VM and some storage space available.
Yeah, yeah, totally. I'm sure we can host it if that's where we end up landing. It's just another resource we have to worry about backing up, doing, making sure it's available, all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
Cool. Yeah, I'll bring it up with Emil.
Cool. Thanks.
So another question from Henry about Atlassian Summit. I don't think anyone here knows the exact plans. There might be a presentation. We need to ask Emil.
You're framing it wrong. It will be a surprise if there is a presentation.
I like it. All right. Well, this has gone a couple minutes over. Anybody else have any last thoughts? Going once. Going twice. And this ends our community call. Thanks, everybody, for participating, and we'll be back in a couple weeks.
See you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
See you, everyone. Bye-bye.